and welcome to the That's Why They Were Bollocks podcast. We've basically finished our 9-part Bruce Lee series. Over those 9 parts, we explored, the quality nature of Bruce Lee, what he brought to the world, what he brought to Asian culture, what he brought to world culture. And now what we're going to do in this episode is explain how a load of filmmakers exploited the shit out of it and basically, I wouldn't say besmirched his legacy because a lot of people haven't heard of these films, but they just cashed in on all of that legacy for their own good. My name is Sanchez, by the way, and I am joined as ever by Paddy Stanton.
Oh yes, the one and only. Yeah, so this should be quite a funny one. I'm looking forward to actually. I guess just right off the bat, to explain what it is, you probably have to kind of explain what blaxploitation is, so people that don't know. How it is described here on the one and only Wikipedia.
Oh, I've got that up as well.
So it's an ethnic subgenre of the exploitation film that emerged in the United States during the early 1970s. And yeah, as we've explained, it's a play on the word exploitation. So
yeah, and an exploitation film, according to Wikipedia, is a film that attempts to succeed financially by exploiting current trends, niche genres, or lurid content. And yeah, that's a good description of what we're about to talk about today.
Is there a description of Wikipedia on Wikipedia? They're the real questions.
Oh my, that is just, if I think about that too long, I think I'm going to explode. That's
some Inception shit. Don't tell Christopher Nolan about that idea.
You're playing with fire with that idea, mate. Oh, my word. Oh.
So what essentially today's podcast is then, Lou, is taking that, what we've explained there, and, well, Bruceploitation, and just explain just a brief little summary of what you would call Bruceploitation.
Well, Bruceploitation is, but basically, Bruce Lee, as we covered on the 9-point Bruce Lee series, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all good places where podcasts are. Basically, Bruce Lee, by the time 1973, Bruce Lee was probably the biggest star, or one of the biggest stars in world cinema. Enter the Dragon, a massive hit. Now the films, the 4 completed martial arts films, I should say, the Big Boss, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, they're also being rewatched. They're becoming like big hits around the world. And the trouble is that Bruce Lee happens to be brown bread, so they can't make any more of these films because Bruce Lee is brown bread. So how do we get around that? How do we? There's money to be made here, but he's in the ground. What do we do? I know what we do. We come up with loads of people and sort of have them dress kind of like Bruce Lee. We have them give them names that are kind of like Bruce Lee, like Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah. And or Bruce Lee spelled differently. And
surely not.
Yeah, we do a load of films with dragon in the title. Bruce Leng.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. And we do a load of films with dragon in the title. And what we try and do is we try and I think trick is a good word. Trick audiences to think, oh, they're coming here to see a Bruce Lee film, and it is, and that was basically it. Like I was there. I heard that some people who'd go in to actually like see these films would be thinking like, oh, this is Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's surely they would know that he's dead though. But you think maybe just some parts of the world they probably just they don't even know that it hasn't been covered, and they're just they're exploiting them.
Yeah, I think I think they probably know in the back of their mind, but they're like, I don't know, they just come in with like the I think, maybe some people are like, the Bruce Lee death conspiracies are there, or at this time, of course, the internet wasn't around. So not everyone would know. Oh yeah, Bruce Lee only made these 4 films. Like people now might have seen Enter the Dragon and then go, oh shit, there's another film that Bruce Lee. They might have. Oh, I didn't know that's how. I thought his name was spelled with 2 e's. Oh, right, I must be wrong. And that, I think that was a large appeal of these films, what they were trying to do to audiences. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it. But if you want a detailed explanation, a detailed look into Bruceploitation, if you want to make yourself suffer, then there is an actual podcast about this called the Clones Cast, which is all about Bruceploitation. That tells you how many films that there are of this genre or subgenre, because there's a whole podcast dedicated to it. There's also, if you want a detailed look at Bruceploitation, there's a whole book, and it's not like a small pamphlet, it's like a detailed book, and yeah, check those out. I'm not going to recommend checking any of the films out. I don't know whether to call this Bruceploitation and the Game of Death, or just Bruceploitation, because I'm going to include, and we're going to cap this episode off with the 1978 release, the original release of Game of Death, because what I want to make this distinction is the footage that Bruce Lee filmed that you can find on YouTube, that was in the Warrior's Journey documentary. That's quality. That no way bollocks. So I didn't want to, I don't want people to be mistaken. Oh, they're having a go at that Game of Death. No, what we're having a go at is a 1978 Robert Klaus directed version, which is one of the most disgraceful posthumous releases I've ever seen.
That's annoying as fuck, because honestly, the favorite part of the series that we did, it's probably, for me, might be the Game of Death. Because the fact we watched the whole entire video at the same time and covered it all, like, sort of, live, if you like. So I would have loved that. So I don't know if I even want to watch the original cut now.
Well, you won't need to after listening. After I'll take you through it here. So let's kick things off. The first film I'd class as Bruceploitation. It was made in the Philippines, 1972, starring Roman Zamora, and it was called The Pig Boss.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah. And as I said, I haven't watched that film, so I don't know. Fuck knows what that's about.
I'm sure instead of the big gaffer, they get a pig in his role instead, and it's just this wannabe Bruce murdering a pig.
Yeah, or it could just be a farmer. Could be a farmer.
That sounds
Yeah. Okay, 1973, we have Bruce Lee versus the Chinese Frankenstein.
What?
Bruce Lee fights zombies. Don't know why. Shadow of the Dragon, another Philippines film in 1973, starring Roman Zamora. Then we go to 1974, Bruce Lung. Stars Bruce Lung.
Must have been a heavy smoker.
Aged considerably, and he kills an exploding dog belonging to the mafia. So the mafia invite Bruce to a fake film set in Italy where they can kill Bruce. So that happens there.
Bruce Lang is a heel, clearly.
He is, mate. He's big boss man, harming dogs. The growling
pepper.
Yeah, the growling tiger. This is set after Way of the Dragon. A crime syndicate are after Bruce Lee's character Tung Lung, which of course Bruce Lee's character from Way of the Dragon, after Tung Lung killed Chuck Norris's character, who they call Number 9. They can't find him, so they search for his uncle, and Tung Lung's cousin takes them on. Apparently the music's good in this film. 1974, The Black Dragon's Revenge.
Shoe polish?
No, special Chinese makeup. This makeup?
No, baby, it's the real shit.
So were some of these quite big budget then as well, would you say?
Really, some of them have bigger budgets than others. But I wouldn't say any of them are getting like massive budget films. There is a few recognisable people in those, which we will we will get on to. This film didn't have the budget or the care and attention, I would say. The Black Dragon's Revenge, 1974, stars Ron Van Cleef. The script was written on the plane over to film it.
Yeah, it says a lot. It says how rushed it is.
Exactly. In the first poster, there was a picture of Bruce Lee on it. The film was also going to be called The Death of Bruce Lee. It's about 3 rival gangs embarking on the search for Bruce Lee's handwritten finger fighting manual. And apparently in this film, there's a geezer throwing snakes at people. So check that one out.
Try anything in these, won't they?
They will. Roman Zamora popping up again for another film in the Philippines, 1974, The Game of Death with an exclamation mark.
Oh, come on. There's got to be some form of copyright here, surely.
I don't know. I was wondering about that, actually. How they get away with just calling shit like Fist of Fury 2, Game of Death 2.
Yeah. No trademark down back in them days, clearly.
No, yeah, is that no intellectual property? None of their concerns.
Bruce is quite popular in the Philippines as well, I'm noticing.
Yeah, well, he's popular all over, but especially, I suppose, like those Asian countries where they, years they probably wouldn't have had, or maybe ever had, like a star on this magnitude who was sort of representing their culture. So,
You mean Bruce Lang, yeah.
Bruce Lang, exactly. The storyline of this Game of Death with an exclamation mark, according to IMDb, is a karate champion and his manager are invited to participate in a martial arts tournament held in an island, and they end up fighting for their lives while rescuing kidnapped models. And it features footage from the 1978 Game of Death. So, yeah.
I mean, the fact that this is allowed, it boggles my mind.
Oh, yeah. Well, prepare for your mind to keep boggling. 1974, Bruce Lee, A Dragon Story, Hong Kong film starring Bruce Lee. 1975, Bruce Lee, his last Game of Death, made in Taiwan, again starring Bruce Lee. And we go over to...
Is this the guy's real name, or do you think he's changed his name, or what?
I think some of them might have actually legally changed their names to Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee, because they do go on to be called it in a few films. So it's not just all Asia. We actually go over to South America. 1975, the Brazilian film Bruce Lee versus Gay Power. We have 1975 Bruce Lee versus Superman. Forget Batman versus Superman. It's Bruce Lee versus Superman. A scientist tries to save the world's food crisis with petroleum. I mean, petroleum is a lot more scarce than food, so I don't know why they're doing that. Save the petrol, probably make some money. Someone tries to kidnap the scientist who's doing this procedure, this turning petrol into food for some reason, and Kato tries to save him. I'm not sure.
Back from the dead.
Kato, yeah, back from the dead. I'm not sure if Superman actually turns up in this film.
Oh, gutted, man. Can you imagine a Kato and Superman stare off?
Yeah, that would be for the ages, mate. Soup-exploitation, this is as well. Bruce Lee's Deadly Kung Fu, 1976, also called The Secret of Bruce Lee, and it's also known as the name Bruce Lee's Secret. It stars Bruce Lee again, who plays a character called Bob Lee, who has the exact same life as Bruce Lee and is called Bruce on 2 occasions apparently, and also there's a guy in blackface in this film. Bruce Lee, His Last Days and Nights, 1976, and this actually stars Betty Ting Pei playing herself in this film, which apparently is based...
Ting Pei, making that money even after his death on his name.
She's getting in there. Well, she got her side of the story to tell, and apparently this film is all about telling that story. It's apparently a propaganda film, as she tried to get across the fact she didn't kill Bruce Lee. She tells a fictionalized version of her life story to a barman. Bruce Lee saves her from some people trying to attack her. There's loads of breasts in this film, so I can recommend it for that.
Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. Might seek me self out with this one, but the fact she had to defend herself that much that she created a fictionalized version of saying basically I didn't do it. I mean that says she either did do it there or she got a lot of abuse.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, if you've got to make a whole film saying I didn't do it,
Yeah.
that's not the best defense. Yeah, but no, yeah, she
It
was getting a
wasn't my fault.
if you're taking legal advice from Gene Snitsky, life don't bode well for you. Same year, 1976, Bruce's Deadly Fingers. Um, Betty Pay again. She probably has her own story to tell about that.
Yeah, of course she is. She's had well, we've discussed this. The whole fist's been up there. That fist of fury many times.
Allegedly, we can never confirm nor deny. Another person who knows about Bruce Lee's Deadly Fingers, allegedly, Nora Meow, starred in. I don't know if she starred, but she was in this. And Won Sung Leng, of course, one of Bruce Lee's teachers, were in this. Apparently, it had a good nunchuck battle scene in it. It stars Bruce L.E., so I think that's Bruce Lee. I don't know how to pronounce that. According to IMDb, the film is about malicious gangsters who capture Bruce Wong's ex-girlfriend, a young martial artist attempts to rescue her, along with the late master's book containing lethal techniques for killing the ones. But basically, yeah, they're trying to rescue this girl and get Bruce Lee's finger book, which pops up in one or two of these Bruceploitation films. And yeah, this book is featured in other. It's featured in other Bruceploitation films such as Kung Fu Fever and Black Dragon Fever. So there's a cinematic universe with these.
Fuck the Marvel cinematic. Fuck DC. This is where it started. This is where it's at.
This is where, I mean, Superman even turns up, so they got a DC tie-in right
That's
there.
it.
1976, Taiwan/Hong Kong production. Exit the Dragon, Enter the Tiger, starring Bruce Lee. So yeah,
I wonder if as ripped as Bruce as well. Actually, I'm gonna look. Bruce Lee, oof, shredded man.
Is he? Would you?
Bruce Lee, I would, yeah. Bruce Lee has got shreds.
Is this Bruce L.I.?
Lee, yeah. Bruce Lee, on the other hand,
Let's
Bruce
have a look.
Lee is quite, yeah, he's quite ripped as well, actually.
Yeah. Bruce Lee is like I'd say he's long shot like fit. Like Bruce Lee's close up fit. Bruce Lee, you'd look at him from a distance, you'd go, oh, I'd smash him if I was.
None of them have got Bruce Lee's face though. That's the thing, innit? Like Bruce Lee's is his beautiful face.
Very true, very true. So yeah, 1976, same year, is where we get to Bruce Lee Fights Back from the Grave, South Korean film starring Jun Chong. In the opening sequence, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. In the opening sequence, Bruce Lee's grave gets struck by lightning, and Bruce comes back from the grave. And then the rest of the film is about a geezer called Wong Hun trying to discover the death of Bruce Lee.
Love it. I love it. This one jumped out at me, the title the most, and you've got to edit in the poster of this film here because it's so funny.
I was about to say that the poster jumped up at me. I mean, talk about some fisting. I mean, what's going on there? Oh,
it's just a little fucking demon bat as well, like chilling out of the grave, and it says you can't keep a good man down.
It's a good album cover, that. I mean, that is a quality. I hope he designed some albums.
Look at that.
There's the new Fist of Fury, 1976, a Hong Kong film. And apparently this is an official sequel to Fist of Fury, starring Jackie Chan, directed by Lo Wei. Of course, he directed Fist of Fury. Yeah, and the main character, he gets shot again. Didn't learn his lesson from the first film. And Nora Meow as well, of course, was in Fist of Fury. She's in this too. And Bruce's finger book makes another appearance.
Fingers in all the pies, like we discussed.
Like we've discussed. I mean, this film, I don't know if it's any good, but it's got Lo Wei, got Jackie Chan, Nora Meow. I mean, if there is any film I'd recommend from all these, I'd say probably that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably like the most popular one, you would say. I wonder if this was one of Jackie Chan's first lead roles as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as we discussed on the Bruce Lee series, around about 73, he was still a stuntman, and then as we'd say now, like basically everyone was making. Bruce Lee was the biggest film, and like the whole, I'd say like most films being made in Hong Kong, if not all of them, were in the shadow of Bruce Lee, and they tried to make Jackie Chan basically like the next Bruce Lee. And it was only when he stopped doing that and he actually like he got his way and he could let him be himself, that he became popular. But yeah, for a long time that they were basically trying to make him the new Bruce Lee. Did not work.
No, it's like in wrestling as well when you do gimmicks, the new Diesel or the new Razor Ramon, or recreating the Road Warriors as Heidenreichers, that sort of thing. It's never gonna work.
That could be a good. That's one of the bollocks episodes, like Diesel exploitation. Bruce Lee, The Dragon Lives, a 1976 film by a Taiwan-Hong Kong co-production starring Bruce Lee, L.I. It tells a fictionalized version of Bruce Lee's life story, where he lives past the release of Enter the Dragon, and he dies during intercourse with Betty Ting Pei, and there's thunder going on apparently at this time, and Bruce Lee kind of gets possessed and dies. That same year in Hong
That would
Kong.
be the best way to go, by the way, don't you think?
But
Or
I mean,
Betty Ting.
going during intercourse, yes. Betty Ting Pei, not so sure.
You weren't the biggest fan, was you? I remember.
No. She's no. I mean,
Not
Bruce
even
could have
for the
done
Sanch.
better. What's that?
Not even for the Sanch.
No, I mean I would, but I wouldn't really be happy. So they got Bruce Lee, The Man, the Myth, Hong Kong film, 1976, starring Bruce Lee again. He's getting a lot of work, this geezer.
He's definitely making the rounds the most by the looks of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, here's the thing: it's these geezers laugh at them. They're getting work. They're making a good bit of dough. I mean, if you make that paper, you got to do what you got to do. Yeah,
very competitive. The Bruceploitation genre.
Well, I don't even think it needed to be. There's probably one getting made every week. It's enough Bruceploitation to go around. The Bruce Lee, most of these films, 1976, they're all popping off here. Another one, 1976, Bruce Lee, The Man, the Myth, Hong Kong production starring Bruce Lee, semi-autobiographical film about Bruce Lee that, according to Wikipedia, chronicles Bruce Lee's life, beginning with Lee leaving China to go to the university in Seattle, and most of the benchmarks of Lee's later life, being cast in the Green Hornet television series, marrying Linda, stardom in Hong Kong, and being brown bread, they're all covered, with a somewhat less tenuous relationship to the truth than in previous Bruce Lee biopics. Unicorn Chan, he's in this film playing himself.
Wow.
Yeah. An OG. Yen Biao, he's in this film, of course, really famous with Jackie Chan. He's in this film. Ip Chun, he plays Ip Man. Of course, Ip Chun is Ip Man's son. Bruce and the Shaolin Bronzeman, 1977, Hong Kong.
They don't have reach with some of these names, don't they? Jesus.
They do. By the way, this is a shortened version. I'm not listing all the Bruceploitation films because then we'd lose the will to live. And so yeah, The Dragon Lives Again, Hong Kong, 1977. It stars Bruce Leung, which Leung. The film starts off with the Enter the Dragon theme, which then goes into the James Bond theme, I think. And it's a satirical comedy film. Bruce Lee's dead body has an erection. And the erection turns out actually to just be like a set of nunchucks. So it wasn't his penis. And talking of the three legs, the film poster actually does have Bruce with three legs.
Oh, I can see that now. It also says the deceased Lee meets a number of pop culture icons, including Dracula, James Bond, Clint Eastwood, The Godfather, The Exorcist, and even 1970s soft porn character Emmanuel.
Yeah. The soul of Bruce Lee goes to hell, meets The Exorcist, Dracula, James Bond, Clint Eastwood's character from the Dollars trilogy, which I don't think had the name. I've Zoe Touch. I do know how to pronounce it, but I've forgotten.
Zatoichi.
Zatoichi. There is a way. I didn't know how to pronounce it. Zatoichi. That's it. Zatoichi. I think is how you pronounce it. He's like a big famous Japanese film character who Bruce Lee actually was like inspired by, like his films.
That sounds great. That's got to be on your next films to have to watch. Popeye as well. Popeye. He meets Popeye.
The one-armed swordsman as well, and Manuel, as you mentioned before, and Kane, the main character from the Kung Fu series.
Amazing.
Sounds
incredible.
Yeah, I might have even left some geezers out. Bruce Lee, I'm sure Kevin Hart's in it as well. He's in everything, just popping up for a cameo. Somehow. Yeah, Bruce Lee manages to defeat the king and get out of hell and go back to Earth. There's loads of naked women in it, so, that's good. And one of the translations of the film's title was actually Bruce Lee's third leg shakes the gates of hell. So that's that third leg I was talking about earlier.
Well, we know that's certain, isn't it, from all the affairs he's had.
Oh, yeah, and this film does play on his womanizing and stuff like that, so it does touch on some of the aspects of Bruce Lee. 1977, Fist of Fury 2, sequel to Fist of Fury, starring Bruce Lee, unrelated to the new Fist of Fury.
Disclaimer, unrelated to new Fist of Fury.
Just in case you were confused, in case you were concerned. And Enter the Three Dragons, 1978. It's a bit like the clones of Bruce Lee. And, yeah, some geezers on the poster apparently aren't actually in the film. So if you've gone there expecting to see any of them, you might be disappointed.
Of course. Standard,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Motto on the cover. Don't even put him in the film. Why not?
Yeah, well, who's going to notice?
Dragon Lee's in this.
What, the wrestler?
Dragon Lee.
Oh, my word. He's been going a while.
So, yeah, so we've got a new Lee. It's not a Bruce Lee. It's Dragon Lee. So if this is where the wrestlers it was inspired by, I'm very, very surprised and shocked that he's into his Bruceploitation, but there we go. Maybe if I ever see Dragon Lee or meet him, that's the conversation starter.
Definitely, yeah. Get him to share the podcast. There's Enter the Fat Dragon, 1978, starring Sammo Hung. It's a parody of Bruceploitation films. So, yeah, it's a bit more of a, it's a sort of it doesn't take itself too seriously. Apparently in this film, Sammo Hung fights some pigs. There's more people in blackface. But apart from that, it's meant to be all right.
Oh, haven't they done they're doing a remake on this, or they've done a remake on it?
Have they?
Enter the Fat Dragon, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a trailer for it.
Jesus.
Just looking now. 2020.
Wow.
Police officers investigate the mysterious death of a suspect who's in custody. Yes, interesting. It's got not bad reviews as well, apparently.
That might be one to check out. 1978 as well, there was the film Dynamo. In this film, a guy gets mistaken for Bruce Lee, becomes a movie star, fights in an MMA tournament for some reason, and apparently there's a good sex scene in it, so check that out. The magician Dynamo is nowhere to be seen. There's Enter the Game of Death, a South Korean / Hong Kong film, 1978, starring Bruce Lee.
Of course, you've got to do, amalgamation of all his films into the one title. That'll put some butts in the seat.
And the SEO machines were going back in the 70s, mate. They knew what they were doing. This on the Google search is getting the hits. There's that traction. Speaking of that, the True Game of Death. 1979.
The only game of death.
The only game of death. There's The Dragon the Hero, 1979. Bolo Young is in this film. Apparently he's playing King Kong.
Of course he is. He can pass for King Kong, the fucking meaty man.
Yeah, he can, climbing up the Empire State Building. This film stars Dragon Lee again. He's getting about, getting about.
He's in good shape for his age, man. Wow.
Oh, I want to know what aging cream he uses.
I picked him just for you.
There's the Fist of Fury 3.
Of course.
1979, starring Bruce Lee. And then, same year, Philippines, 1979, they call him Bruce Lee, starring Jack Lee and Ray Melanzo.
We've got a new Lee in the house, a Jack. Of course, there's got to be a Jack.
Got a Jack in the building. There's a Kung Fu Fever, the same year, 1979, South Korea, Taiwan. Again, Dragon Lee's in it. In this film, we get Dragon Lee using thumb chucks, which are nunchucks attached to the thumbs, apparently.
Interesting. I'm going to have to check these.
There's Challenge of the Tiger, 1980. Loads of breasts in this film, so, it's all right by me.
I like the way you've made a note on all the ones that I've got the most breasts in. So there must be a reason for that.
Oh, of course. I've got to give the important information out there. There's priorities here.
Priorities, yeah, of course.
Priorities. And Bolo Young, he turns up in this film for a bit as well. So Bolo getting a bit of work and some good breasts.
True. I mean, bodybuilding's not very well paid, so he's got to make his money somehow, Bolo.
Make that paper. Way of the Dragon 2, 1980. Basically a retelling of Fist of Fury, confusingly.
I
don't know what's going on with these films. There's 1980.
Minefield, innit? It's a mindfuck.
It is a mindfuck. United States getting in on this action. American film Fist of Fear, Touch of Death, 1980, starring Bruce Lee and Fred Williams. Now, apparently, Bruce Lee and archive footage. I don't know what this was. If this was actually like, I don't know what, this is meant to be a documentary or something. The martial arts film. Madison. This film was supposedly to determine a successor to Bruce Lee. Apparently, this is a tournament set in Madison Square Garden at the World Karate Championships 1979 to determine the successor to Bruce Lee, even though Bruce Lee famously studied Kung Fu, not karate.
Fucking hell.
Just
minor little details, that's all we got wrong here, just minor.
No one would notice. Oh, of course not. The Clones of Bruce Lee, 1980, South Korea / Hong Kong production. Stars Bruce Lee, L.E., Dragon Lee, and another Bruce Lee actor, Bruce L.A.I.
Bruce Lee.
I think it might be Bruce Lee, yeah. Bruce
Lee and Bruce Ty as well.
Bruce Ty's in this, yeah.
They're both twins, aren't they? Fucking Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Lion Ty. The Lion Ty connection.
Might be like my Lion Ty connection. I like that. They like the Chuckle Brothers of the Bruceploitation. In this film, after Bruce Lee dies, a scientist uses Bruce's DNA to make 3 clones of Bruce Lee who fight crime, and they fight each other along the way. Loads of breasts again in this film. So
man, that's on one of the list there. The Clones of Bruce Lee. Okay, I'm intrigued.
The Clones of Bruce. I think that's probably the most famous one of these films.
Is it?
I think so.
No, because there's about 10 different Bruce Lees.
This is the homage to the Bruce Lee, the Bruceploitation genre. This is the love letter to it. There's Bruce Lee. It's Bruce's Fist of Vengeance, a Philippines film, 1980, starring Bruce L.E.
Now that's as sexual as it gets.
That he is. That's some heavy fisting right there. There's Dragon Bruce Lee Part 2. Apparently there wasn't a Part 1. 1981. There was Tower of Death, which was also called Game of Death 2, 1981, which uses some unseen footage from Enter the Dragon. Apparently Golden Harvest said they have some unused footage from Enter the Dragon, so basically they made a film to put it in. And the filmmakers I think they were led to believe that they had more footage than they did. Like they had more Enter the Dragon footage, and I believe all that footage was just Bruce Lee when he gets taken to his room in Hans Islands. Like there's a bird cage and there's a book there, and it's basically a little bit of footage. And they thought there was more than there was.
Like 5 minutes of footage then.
Probably not even that. Probably not even that.
And that's on the fucking poster and everything.
Oh
Come
yeah.
and see and enter the dragon footage. You must see this.
Just slow down the frame rate and make it last 90 minutes. This film apparently is pretty much a sequel to Enter the Dragon. Stars Tong Lung, not the rapper. Apparently it's quite good. And Tong Lung fights a lion, which is a man in a lion suit. And apparently it's quite somber and respectful, I suppose, as much as it can be.
You would say he's a man cheater.
Yeah, it's a man cheater in this. And there's yeah. Bruce, Jackie and Bruce to the rescue. Hong Kong, 1982. I believe Jackie Chan's in this, and it stars Tong Lung again.
I would hope so.
Yeah, imagine that would really take the piss. Like if they're not even just they're exploiting Jackie Chan. They're doing Jackie Chan's exploitation.
He's not even in it.
He's not even in it. They're doing transploitation. He's not even dead.
Ming as Jackie, Tong Lung as Brother Bruce. So
He
yeah,
isn't,
you're
he,
right.
he isn't in it, is he?
Nah, he's not in it.
What the fuck? That is fucking ridiculous.
Jackie exploitation. Oh
my gosh. Transploitation in the building. Oh my word.